Woordorde. Dit is belangrik dat jy die woordorde baas raak in 'n taal. Hoekom leer ons oor woordorde? Dit is om die taal te leer. Ons het woordeskat en reëls en dan word daar 'n standaard taal geskep sodat almal hierdie taal kan leer. Ons weet daar's verskeie dialekte van tale. We know there are different types of dialects, but that changes it. There's a standard that we use so that we understand each other in the language and it can be taught to other people. So the first thing we have is woordeskat or vocabulary. In all the languages, for example, there is a word for dog. In Afrikaans, it's hond. And when we say these words, we know exactly what we are talking about. If I say to you a hond, immediately in your mind, you see a picture of a dog and you understand. Remember, communication and language is about understanding, comprehension of what I am talking about. It works the same with an apple. But words just put together means nothing. There's no meaning. If I say appel, hond, eet môre, there's no meaning to it. So in the build-up of a language, we have rules, and there's spelling rules and then grammar rules. And the one that we're going to look at today is the woordorde. Now, this is like a formula you have in class and in maths, where you have x plus y equals z, for example. Similarly, in language, in Afrikaans, we have got STOMPI, and in each of these parts of STOMPI, you have to insert the correct part of speech so that you can make your sentence. You have to get the basic STOMPI correct before you can move on to more complex sentences with conjunctions, voegwoorde, adding in adjectives and starting with different parts of STOMPI. Get the basics because that is your platform. If your platform isn't sturdy, then your whole building is going to fall down. So if we have the words and we put them into the formula, then we have sinne. And these sentences communicate meaning. The person receiving it then has understanding. Right, so what we're saying is that STOMPI is like a blueprint of a house. In each of these, there are certain things that go into it. So in a garage, you have a car, and in a kitchen, you have a fridge. Generally, a fridge doesn't go into a bathroom unless you live in a very small little place. But we're talking generally. And if you apply this blueprint, which is your STOMPI, then your sentences will be in the correct order and it will make sense to a person listening to it or reading it. So the word you need to know is woordsoorte. Woordsoorte means parts of speech. So in class, when I say, watter woordsoort is hierdie, you need to be able to say, is it a selfstandige naamwoord, a byvoeglike naamwoord? What is it we are looking at? So die huis, and I showed you the blueprint, bestaan uit verskillende dele, en elke deel het 'n plek. So every part of a house has got the same, has got a place, and it needs to be in place to support each other. So you cannot put the window in the place of the door, or you cannot put the roof on before you've got the walls. Right. So remember that the STOMPI is like a formula that you need to apply as you do in maths. And what we are going to do in the next couple of lessons is that we are going to break it down. If we want to solve the problem of writing sentences, we need to break them down and understand the components. So when you've got the components and you understand where they work, how they work, and the mechanics of them, then you can start building it. The smallest form of this house is a subject and a verb. And that is, for example, ek kan of ek speel. I can then start adding onto my house with other parts of speech. But the most important rule is that a sentence must have a verb and it must be placed in the second position. Right? Remember, we are starting off with the basics. And many of the language exercises, you will need to be able to identify the verb. On your page 8 of your werkboek, you will see this opsomming. Now, this is a little table to help you with your STOMPI, and I'm going to quickly go through it to let you know how it works. Right, so there we have our different parts of speeches. In English, you have your nouns, your verbs, your adjectives, and similarly, this is the Afrikaans. Selfstandige naamwoorde, werkwoorde, bywoorde. Please note I'm using some afkortings, so you can already start learning these. S.N.W. means selfstandige naamwoord. Right, these parts of speech fits into a certain part of STOMPI. So a selfstandige naamwoord fits into a subject. Right. So when you want to start your sentence with a subject, you have to use a selfstandige naamwoord. You use a lidwoord or a voornaamwoord. So you can say die man of hy. And so you work through the entire diagram. The verb one is always second position, not the second word. When we go later on into the different parts of the woordsoorte, you will see that we will have a hoofwerkwoord and a hulpwerkwoord. Then you have adverb of time. Again, this one is very important because this is a change from English. Our time is next to our verb in a normal statement sentence starting with the subject. Okay, so that adverb, remember, describes the action. What time does the action take place? And in this case, die man speel vandag, he plays today. Then we have the object, which is also a selfstandige naamwoord. And what is he playing? He is playing a klavier, right? A klavier, and dit is also considered a object. Then we have the following two adverbs of manner and place. So how is he playing? Where is he playing? He is playing softly, saggies, and he is playing in die kamer. Then you see a verb to. Now, verb to only pops up when you are working with the past tense and the future tense, right? And you've seen this before. Your main verb moves to the end and gets a ge, and when it's a sal, it remains untouched. And then we have the infinitive, which is at the end, which we'll talk about a lot later, but that is usually why you are doing the activity. What we also need to look at are these question words. You ask these question words to tell you the part of speech you wanting. So, ek speel bal, wie speel bal? Ek. Wat speel ek? Ek speel met die bal. Goed. Wat doen ek? Doen, remember, is an action. Ek speel bal. So these question words are very important to help you put them in. We do have a tussenwerpsel, which we'll talk about later, and byvoeglike naamwoorde. But one of the things that I always tell you in class is to glim. And when you're doing language work in your essays and in your editing part of your essays and your orals, you have to glim the werkwoord to see that it's always in the second position. When you're in your test, your language test, highlight the verbs because it's usually those ones that move when you apply the different rules. Right, now we're going to look at the different woordsoorte, the parts of speech. We are going to go into each of these quite in depth because there are rules about them. But for now, what you just need to know that these are all the parts of speech and they fit into STOMPI. But the most important one is the selfstandige naamwoorde that can be used in the subject or in the object. Your werkwoord, which we got verb 1 and 2, and then your bywoorde. So I'm not going to go on much further than that. So we're going to continue to the next slide. Right. Now, so your S stands for subject. In Afrikaans, it's onderwerp, and that is the noun. What we can do is add a lidwoord, an article, in front of the selfstandige naamwoord. So that's also one way of identifying a noun of a selfstandige naamwoord. There are two. Bepaald is specific. Die hond. So it's not just any dog, it's a specific dog. And then is onbepaald. That could be any. But we need to look at the following. Right. Die seun, right? So that die seun is a specific boy. Maar 'n hond. When you start at the beginning of a sentence with the next word gets capitalized with an H. More things that you need to remember. Is always singular. So you can't say 'n honde.